We've all had that adrenaline rush moment while driving. You're just driving along, minding your own business, when out of nowhere, another car almost hits you. You hit the brakes and turn the wheel as fast as you can, and in a moment, it's gone. No accident, but your whole body, every nerve fiber is wide awake and alert. And with your heart pounding 1,000,000 beats a minute, you ask, where did that car come from? The sad truth is that while you were driving on autopilot. You weren't really paying attention to everything happening around you. You were complacent. In an article entitled, "Complacency Leads to Accidents," the author writes, complacency is extremely dangerous in the workplace. You get so used to things being done the same way that you don't always look at the hazards in your surrounding. You may also underestimate the risk of tasks that you perform regularly or fail to notice a change in your environment when you become complacent in your daily routines. When you begin to work on autopilot and stop paying attention to what you're doing, that can lead to taking shortcuts and taking risks. When working on routine, repetitive tasks, or even driving to familiar sites, you can become very comfortable and you go into autopilot. All too often, you don't realize how complacent you have become until you have a near miss or close call. Are you living your life on autopilot? Are you very comfortable with the routines in your life that you've stopped paying attention to the dangers that exist? Or just as important, are you no longer paying attention to the things that are most important in your life? Complacency in the Christian life is a common problem. Just as we've gotten complacent in our driving habits, we can become complacent in our Christian habits. And slowly, often imperceptibly, we drift off into a mental fog. And this mental fog of complacency prevents us from seeing the dangers and also can prevent us from staying on track to our goals. A.W. Tozer warns us in these words, "Complacency is a deadly foe of all spiritual growth." And Reverend Samuel Rodriguez cautions us this way, "Today's complacency is tomorrow's captivity." Wow. Complacency is the deadly enemy of spiritual progress. The contented soul too often is the stagnant soul. And when you're feeling complacent, you tend to be pretty smug and overconfident about what you're doing. You feel very satisfied with your behavior. Unfortunately, that sense of satisfaction doesn't stand up to any real, true scrutiny. The causes of complacency can come from different angles, but one reason we get complacent is the desire to relax. Yes, relax. In Luke chapter 12, verses 15 through 21, Jesus tells a parable warning against covetousness and greed, but embedded within the parable is the danger of complacency. The rich farmer wants to just relax because he's satisfied with his achievements. He got a bumper crop. He builds more barns to store the crops. He's ready to stop and enjoy it all by himself. But it is an uncritical satisfaction because he will not live to enjoy the bounty. He was on autopilot. And Jesus concludes the parable with this warning that the man had laid up treasure for himself but was not rich toward God. Francis Chan puts it this way, "The world needs Christians who don't tolerate the complacency of their own lives." In Revelation chapter 3, verse 15 and 16, Jesus is very explicit about the dangers of complacency and living on autopilot. Jesus says it this way, "I know your works. You are neither cold nor hot. Would that you were cold or hot. So because you are lukewarm and neither hot nor cold, I will spit you out of my mouth." Jesus was anything but complacent when it came to rescuing us from our sin. He definitely wasn't on autopilot when he went to the cross and died to pay for our sins. You can now see why he detests the uncommitted, complacent life. A lukewarm life is a complacent life and is the mark of a wasted life. Here's the sobering thing about complacency and being lukewarm in your commitment to follow Jesus. There really is no middle ground. You are either committed to the mission, all in for Jesus, and using every resource that you have for his people and for his kingdom, or you're not. You are either a sheep or a goat. And that puts the lukewarm Christian in a very precarious position. Consider again another parable of Jesus, the parable of the talents in Matthew chapter 25. 2 of the servants were eager and willing to invest what the master had entrusted to them. The third servant just buried the money. No commitment to do his best with what he had been given to him by the master. He took the easy way, the complacent way. Jesus called the one who buried his talent wicked. That's a harsh word for someone who just played it safe. He probably thought, what wicked thing have I done? I didn't steal the money, gamble it, or spend it on prostitutes and drugs. I gave every penny back. But this is the attitude of the uncommitted and lukewarm person. It's the classic sin of omission, failing to do the good and right that you're supposed to do. The complacent play it safe and just try not to do anything wrong. But it shows you that there is more than one way to be wicked. You can break God's law, or you can do nothing good. The first makes you wicked by the sin of commission. The second makes you wicked by the sin of omission. And complacency and being lukewarm is wickedness. What can we do? First, confession stops complacency. Receive Christ's forgiveness. Second, pay attention. Clear the fog out of your mind. Don't just gaze. Don't just listen and not really pay attention. Be aware of the dangers and the opportunities in your life. Third, change things up. Sometimes our habits have turned into ruts. We just mindlessly do the same things over and over and over again. You don't have to throw out all of your habits. Some of them may be quite helpful if you actually pay attention to them. But often by adding some variety and maybe some novelty to your prayer life and Bible reading, you can remove that mental fog and turn up the heat in your relationship with God. Just for fun, you could try this. When you drive to church for Sunday worship, don't go the normal way. Travel down a different road. It might take you a little longer, but hopefully you won't be on autopilot. By not being complacent in your drive to church, you might be in a better state of mind not to be complacent in worship. Don't be complacent in your relationship with God and in your relationship with other people in your life. Seek to be active in a very positive way in people's lives. Don't just ignore them. Don't just be passive. Don't just bury that relationship and not do anything with it. Pull it out, invest in it, and do your very best. Actively seek to bless the people around you by doing something good and beneficial in their lives. Replace complacency with a red-hot commitment to Jesus. No more autopilot as you live fully, love completely, and make a difference in people's lives for the sake of Jesus.